Good morning, New Vision Center.
Good morning.
My name is Reverend Lezli. I'm your associate minister here at the New Vision Center, and I am delighted to be completing, this is week 3 of a 3-week series on this book, 7,000 Ways to Listen, by the brilliant, poetic, and deep Mark Nepo. And that is how you say his name. I know this because I sought online video of him saying his own name, because I've heard so many versions of it. Nepo is a really common one. Mark Nepo. He's just a delight, and we are getting to about that far into the book in this series. So please know, we have not covered the whole thing. It's still worth getting and reading and exploring. Today's talk is called Getting There. Getting there. And as you can see, we have our annual theme that says every path leads home, which is such a wonderful thing. It gives us our destination. Our end point of this journey is home, the center of our own beingness. But we forget. We forget. And we can get caught up in getting there. And where is there? The end point of winning the goal, getting the job, having the relationship, the bigger house, the more money, the finished book, the whatever the dream is. We want to skip to the good part, and we think the good part is when it's done, right? We want to skip over the journey. We want to skip over the process. But that's not the way it works for a number of reasons. First of all, we can't get there from here. I don't have my teleporter yet, so you probably don't either, though I'm open. Perhaps someone on the online campus is working on that right now. I'm open. We have to go through the process in order for the destination to be where we think it will be when we get there. And we change. The process changes us. So we're going to talk about getting there and what getting there might mean in a spiritual context. So of course, in our theme, Every Path Leads Home, we're exploring all these different kinds of paths that can bring us closer to the center of our being. And these are just the ones that occurred to Reverend Karen and I one day when we were sitting in her office and talked about it for approximately 5 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and call this not an exhaustive list. But today we're really going to focus in on these two. Communion, which is our connection to and our conversation on the inside of ourselves with the divine, however we personally define that. And also self-acceptance, an understanding of who we are in the truth of our nature, for real, for real. You know, not the spiritual bypassing, I'm a spiritual being, so everything is working out perfectly. But actually acknowledging sometimes things get bumpy, sometimes the road changes. Who am I right now? And really accepting and digging into that. Mark Nepo has a lot to say on this topic, which is just delightful. And the first thing he talks about is feeling lost. So we're on our journey to get to wherever our Oz is, right? Whether it's the degree or the relationship or landing in Bali or anything else. We're on the way. And sometimes in the middle of this journey, we look up and we realize that we feel lost. We feel disoriented. We feel separated from the truth of who we really are. Somewhere along the way, we were so focused on the Emerald City that we lost track of our own feet, and perhaps we're hanging out in those poppy fields somewhere. Part of the reason this can happen is because authenticity, truly living out who we really are, can at times place us off of what we would call the social map. The map of the expectations of the culture, of our parents, of 23-year-old selves, of where we thought the destination was supposed to be. When we can't locate ourselves on the social map, the immediate response can be, oh my God, something's wrong. I've done it wrong. I've screwed it up. Right? I don't fit. I've messed it up. And it's such a not pleasant feeling. We know the meaning of getting lost, of being lost, as far as like, I cannot orient myself in space. I cannot find my destination. But Mark points out something that we find a lot from our founder, Ernest Holmes. And that is that there is a lot of depth and meaning in secondary definitions. And he points out in this book that lost, the word lost, comes from the Indo-European root lu, which means to divide, to loosen, to divide, to cut apart. And when we think of the sense of feeling lost within ourselves from that perspective of feeling divided, cut apart, loosened, separated, doesn't that make sense? We've lost track of a piece of our soul by being too attached to what we think is supposed to happen, that some precious part of ourselves got left along the path of the journey, and here we've wandered away without it, and no wonder we feel separated, broken, wrong. We haven't done anything wrong, but we feel wrong because the entirety of ourselves is not cohesive within our own beingness. Mark reminds us in this book that finding our sense of separation, our places of division, often brings us right to the center of our inner tension, which is so fun. We just love that, don't we? But it has spectacular advantages for us. We want to skip to the good part. We want to jump right over the discomfort, don't we? But we need it. We need it because it's telling us something key and important about ourselves. It's telling us where we need to heal. When we attend to those places of division, those places of tension within our own being that cause us to look around us and go, this is not my map. This is not what I picked. This is not what I chose. When we're willing to sit in the quietude and the contemplation and the self-reflection and push right at that spot, then we have the opportunity to heal it. And if we do not, these little divisions, these little skips in our consciousness become schisms. They widen. They become unsurmountable or seemingly unsurmountable canyons upon which we cannot even imagine finding a way across. Have you ever felt that way? Like there's some piece of yourself that is so divided out from the life that you're living that it feels like you're not even being true to your own heart, your own soul, and there's no way back to that space. Take a breath. The good news is we can never be divided from our truth in entirety and in spiritual reality. There's always a path back. The challenging news is that it is right into that center of discomfort that is the bridge back. Remember, Ernest Holmes tells us we don't pretend like it's not broken if it's broken. We look right at it and see through the condition to the truth, the spiritual truth of our nation, our nature. We cannot set a bone until we know where the break is. There's a reason they always do those very expensive x-rays at the ER. It's not just because they like to play with their fun toy. They need to see where the fracture is to be able to know how to move the pieces back together in perfect alignment so that it can heal. We are no different in our souls than we are in our bones. It's the same with grafting a plant. Nature is nature is nature. We must align in order to heal. And even once we're willing to do that, we need to take a breath and decide where we are going. Now, we think we know where we're going, don't we? We know because we made a map when we were 18, and we made a list, and there was a timeline. I mean, if you're anything like me, at this age, I'm going to do this. For some reason, I thought it was really important that when I was 50, I was still going to be able to do the splits. My husband just gave me a thumbs up from the front row. Yeah. I'll report back in 2 years. The things that matter to us when we're younger may not be the things that are important. That's the cheerleader Lezli talking back there. May not be the things that are important to us as we mature, as we age, as we have experiences and move through life. Different things matter. Different things become important, and things fall away that just don't matter as much. Everyone is in such a hurry to get there, but where is there? My husband and I yesterday were looking at this wonderful 1921 World Atlas that he got from his grandfather. He has a bunch of these really old books that are so cool. And I mean, this book is amazing. It was so fun to just open it up and look at how many countries have different names, how many borders have changed, how dramatically different the world looks just a little bit over 100 years past when this book was created. And in addition to nations, there were cities. You could look at cities. And there's a little map of Phoenix in 1921. It had only been a state for 8 years. Arizona had only been a state for 8 years. And Phoenix, do you know the population of Phoenix? Under 30,000. They didn't have air conditioning yet. It made a big difference. Now, this map is glorious. It was so fun. We spent a few moments just looking over this book, and it was so cool. But you know what it didn't do for me? That map of Phoenix could never get me to my favorite coffee shop, or my bead store, or even New Vision Center. The land that New Vision Center is on, we're so far outside of incorporated Phoenix that it was like a day trip away, because it was this little tiny town. We cannot navigate our life using old maps. And so I invite you to check in with yourself. Is your map of self old? Is it a map you made when you were 18 or 23 or 57 or whatever a long time ago was for you? Is it a map you created when different things mattered to you than what matters now? Is it a map you got as a gift from your parents or your teachers or society as a whole? I mean, we have whole aspects of our culture that are based on people sort of lovingly giving us, you notice the gentleness of that gift, giving us maps, like compulsive heteronormativity. How many people in our world get quite a ways into their life and go, oh my gosh, I forgot to notice I was gay. I just thought I didn't like any of the people I dated. Because we're so programmed to follow this map that society gives us that it doesn't even occur to us that there are other maps. By the way, happy Pride Month. We must build our own maps, and we must be open to changing our maps. We can't get to our dream life using a map that is either outdated or was never ours in the first place. And what that means is we must hold everything lightly. Everything lightly. The plans we've held for ourselves, the goals and dreams we've held for ourselves, we need to be willing to re-examine them, and if they no longer fit, set them down nicely on the side of our path for whomever it fits now. I promise that dream will not get abandoned. It will not get lost and broken. Someone will pick it up. Nothing exists in this world for nothing. We can lay down the things that are not ours any longer. And the benefit of that is it opens us up to this next wave of what is for us. Sometimes I get so busy chasing what I think is mine that I don't have time to do the things that truly are my biggest contribution to the planet, to consciousness. I get running around in circles so busily that I still haven't finished that book, Wherever Trudy Is. I'm working on it. I'm working on it. And I'm not the only one, right? This is a perfectly natural and beautiful thing. But we have to be willing to hold everything lightly, even the biggest dream. Even the biggest dream, because things change. What is right changes. What is for the best changes. We change. You likely know, because we really like to talk about it, that 28 community members are going to Bali in a week and a half. Yes? You probably know. You probably know. And Jolene, I remember the day that Jolene came busting into my office. I've got an idea. We're going to Bali. Let's take a bunch of New Vision Center people to Bali. And we thought like 10 or 12. But y'all are always, you're not a 10 or 12 group. You're a woo, we're doing it group, right? And for 3.5 years, we've been visioning and talking and praying and rescheduling, mostly Jolene, to make sure that this trip is spiritually grounded and rich and deep and fun and brilliant and awesome, right? And it is set up to be the trip of a lifetime. So powerful for New Vision Center, so deeply inner motivated. And guess what? I'm stuck in the passport mess. 1 million Americans are stuck in this passport mess where they cannot get their passports in time. And this past Monday, I had the opportunity to call Jolene and say, it's time to make the call. It's 2 weeks out from my plane ticket. I'm not going to Bali. We need to find the right minister to take my spot that will brilliantly and beautifully hold the consciousness of this trip, of these beloveds that are going in such a way that nothing is lost, that nothing is damaged, that nothing is broken. And the person who walked by our side for 7/8 of the planning of this trip, Reverend Jeff Hargis, has risen to the occasion. My tickets are cashed out, his tickets are bought, he's going to Bali. We have to hold it lightly. Because what matters with this trip? What matters is that the whole group has this powerful experience. Do I want to go? Sure. Of course I do. Of course I do. The island of Bali is not going anywhere. When we hold things lightly, we can allow them to self-correct in a way that is centered and gentle and kind. We can let ourselves be the leaders that we are instead of holding on with a white-knuckled grip to something that clearly Spirit is saying is not yours right now, is not mine right now. This trip is not mine. If this trip was mine, I'd have a passport in my hand. 3 weeks from now, I will. And who knows where I'll go. right? Who knows where I'll go? It will be delightful, whatever it is. But the biggest thing is when we hold it lightly, it's okay. It's okay when things change. I get to know about myself that I have the integrity of making that call when it needed to be made. We think we know who we are. We don't always get to test it. It's good to know. So getting there, wherever there is. When we're talking about getting there, there's a paradox. How very normal for science of mind. There's a paradox, and this is the paradox. There's no there. And we're already there. What, Reverend Lezli, what are you talking about? But Reverend Lezli had to say it at least once. There's no there. It is the nature of humanity that once we begin to approach the goal, whatever the goal is, we have already shifted our focus to the next adventure. Why? We are inherently creative beings. It's natural, it's normal, it's the truth of who we are. And we're already there, because it is also the nature of our being to be one in the one with infinite reality. So every quality that we could ever need is already seeded into us. So wherever we are going, we're already there in the center of our own being. Both are true at the same time. Both are true at the same time. Here's the deal. Life is really only ever about the process. It's not about there. It's about there. And we carry this there, this internal there, the centered truth of our being there, wherever we're at on the path. We can't put that down. It's who and what we are. So the practice that helps us remember that and deepen into that and strengthen into that so that we have the capacity to set down the things that are not ours is self-reflection. Remember, in our daily spiritual practice, our daily substantial spiritual practice, there are only 4 pieces. It's not hard. There's talking to God, some form of prayer. There's listening to God, some form of meditation. There's reading wisdom, connecting with the truth, even a sentence, even a daily text. And there is self-reflection, because that's the space where it all gets embodied, where we take it from a nice idea into something that we can actually live. And self-reflection is easy if we're willing to push into that center of tension. It's as simple as sitting and thinking about how I really feel about something, as journaling, as meeting a practitioner for a session to be guided through that process if it's challenging to stay in it. When we choose to be actively self-reflecting, and it is a choice, when we choose it, our current map writes itself. Our current map creates itself in real time. And when we have that map, we know precisely what the next step is to take. And then we continue to hold it lightly, because we are ever evolving, magical beings of goodness. And we want to make sure that we have the space to hold every good thing that is ours. So this is the invitation. Step into self-reflection. Step in a little bit more deeply, a little bit more completely than you have before. And continue to hold it all lightly, so that that which is yours has the space to land and become truly, truly yours in entirety. And so it is. Let us anchor this in with some prayer. How good it is. Oh, how good it is to remember that the only kind of prayer there is not spiritual mind treatment. I can speak a beautiful prayer that is not a 5-step treatment in this moment, that simply leans into the goodness of life itself, that says yes. Yes to whatever good is ours to have. Yes to laying down that which is not for us. To know that there is this infinite power that is forever supporting this process right where we are, and that nothing is lost, and that nothing is broken. That healing place is right where we are. And so I just speak a word affirming and knowing that whatever is on the heart of any beloved within the sound of my voice is already being supported by Spirit. That there is more than enough good, more than enough love, more than enough wholeness, more than enough possibilities, more than enough opportunities, that we can hold it all lightly and trust that the universe will always bring us that which is ours. So grateful I am to know this truth and to hold it for each and every one of us as we just let it be and call it good, as we say, and so it is.